Welcome back, and before we get to work on the camera, there's a few features in the input manager that we need to have in place to help facilitate some of the types of things the camera is going to do. For instance, when we go into the alternative camera mode that's inspired by the Sins of a Solar Empire camera, we have we can kind of zoom around a unit, and if we press the right mouse button and hold after a second, it lets us rotate around. And so our input manager is going to need to differentiate between just a normal right click for moving a unit. Oh, that's a little funky. Wow. Okay. Um, all right. The Borg are a little tipsy today. But I'd also like to anticipate some other types of clicking detection in our input manager that could come in handy. I was told that in Sins, and I never really noticed this much before, you can double left click and it will center the camera. And so I'd like to have that feature, and I'd also like to have maybe a double middle click or a double right click, so that way maybe some ability menus. If you double right click on something, you could maybe do some sort of special context sensitive action or menu could pop up. Who knows? The options could be limitless. So let's start setting that up. So first, I need to introduce to you and show you a concept called coroutines. Coroutines are something that I use when I need to keep track of time, or I need to create a temporary update function that can update on whatever time interval I want. I specify it could be every frame, it could be every few seconds, it could be when another coroutine is finished. You can get really meta with it, but essentially I'm going to use it to detect how long the user has held their mouse button down. And you start with the syntax just as if you were creating any other function, but instead of void or whatever type int, um, yeah, you have for other functions, you have to preface it with I enumerator and then the name of it, and you can pass whatever values you want, like int x string name, whatever you want, just like your normal function. But it's gonna yell at you until you type in yield return. It could be null. It could be wait for end of frame, wait for fixed update, wait for seconds. There's lots of options. So null is just going to come back. Null is what I would use if I wanted the coroutine to come back and loop every frame. Now I said loop because I'm forgetting a very important part of this. You need to use a while loop. Now don't be afraid. I know that while loops are scary, and they can, if not done right, they can really blow things up. But they do exist for a reason, and they work remarkably well in coroutines. So you're gonna have, you're gonna have this coroutine looping through based off of whatever interval you set. So this is gonna do every frame. You could do new wait 4 seconds, 5 seconds. This will come back and loop whatever code every 5 seconds. It'll keep coming back and keep coming back until some sort of conditional parameter that you have this loop checking for becomes false. And it could then leave the loop, or You could just keep that true until, like, another way to do it could be to if true some condition yield break, and that's going to actually stop the entire coroutine. Now, this probably doesn't make sense until I kind of write some code and test and show you exactly what it is doing. So to do that, the condition I want to check for my loop is the user pressing the right mouse button. So I'm going to put in here input.get mouse button 1, so that's going to be our right click. And if we're holding, if that button is down, this will be true. And so as soon as it's not true, the while loop is going to stop. So I'm just going to say yield return null once we're out of the loop. You probably could put yield break too. It doesn't really matter. You just gotta, every path has to have some sort of yield return thing when it comes to coroutines. I'm going to keep track of the duration that we've been iterating through the coroutine. So to do that, I need to have a start time. I need a variable to, at the very beginning, when the coroutine is first created, before it goes in the loop, it needs to keep track of the first time. So I'm gonna create that variable here, and so we're gonna store the time when the coroutine first started, and we're gonna also need to create another variable that's not going to be created and destroyed on each iteration of the loop. So let's create one called elapsed time. And actually, I'm realizing that we don't even need to keep track of the initial time, so it's always better to be more efficient if you can, be more streamlined and optimal. So that is not information that we need, because we can just, every time we loop through, we can add the time.delta time. And so if it starts at 0, it's just going to keep ticking up and up and up. And let's debug.log so that we can see in the console the elapsed time. I'm going to get rid of that and put yield return null because I want it to come back. Now, initially when I first tried to do this, I was trying to do the condition by checking to see if the get mouse button up had been fired. And the problem with that is, like, yeah, while it's probably a little bit more optimal to detect when it's released and stop it there, in these coroutines, it frequently kind of hiccups and it kind of misses detecting that release. So we need to just see, hey, is the mouse being held down? And even if it misses the moment that it's released, it's going to detect that, hey, the button isn't down anymore. And so that's going to allow us to essentially accomplish the same thing. So that's something that was a headache for me at first, and just a little tip I'm giving you right now. I like to know that when we've stopped too. Sorry, I was a little interrupted there, but I believe I was making a, oops, hello, okay. I was making a message to the console for when the coroutine ended. Now let's scroll back up here, and we need to start this function, this coroutine, when the mouse is initially right-clicked. So let's underneath here set that up. we're going to type, I'm going to change the name of that coroutine to detect right click hold time. If you can think of a better name, tell me, but I feel like even though it's long, it tells you what it's doing. You're going to start, you're going to type start coroutine, and then we're going to pass the name of that coroutine. And that should be good. So when the right mouse is initially clicked, it's going to start this coroutine, and it's going to go through here. It's going to detect the first, or it's going to create the elapsed time, which is going to set it to 0, and then go into that that coroutine now. This should be true because it is started once we first click down. So is the mouse being pressed should be true. It's basically what this is, the information this is gathering. And then we add to our elapsed time the time of the change of time of this frame, and then we print it out. And then, okay, we say we're done for this frame, come back next frame. And then as soon as we've released, we will no longer be holding down the right mouse button. We will come out and it should say coroutine ended. Let's test it. Alrighty, I'm gonna right click. So it looks like I did make a little mistake because I right clicked and immediately got through to the end of the coroutine. And so if we go back and look, I said while the button is not down, we want this to be happening while it is down. So always be careful of your negative signs and your nots because you might kill someone. I don't know. This is a video game, but yeah, that's why it's important to test, because chances are you screwed up somewhere, because we're human. Let's try this again, shall we? Okay, I'm gonna clear the console. Whoa. Clear the console and right click. Alrighty, see? It's yeah, the time is getting bigger. Looks like I've held this down for now 10 seconds. And then when I release, it says coroutine ended. So there we go. Let's now make some events here. Maybe this is a better name. I'm gonna change it to monitor right click hold. It's a little shorter and conveys the point. So instead of doing all these, detecting when it's initially clicked, when that's happening, when it's going to be held up, we're going to have our coroutine figure that out. So we need to go back and we actually need to go create some events first up here. I'm going to create one for right click. And there's going to be, I'm going to go back and change this because I'm going to want to have some distinguishing events here. So I will create kind of some versions of this for the right click. So I'm just going to copy paste that and change these to right. But then I'm going to create a couple variations. I'm going to, for one, remember back to when I was rotating the camera around, that was a longer hold of the right click. So I'm going to want it to start firing a different type of events after a certain amount of time has gone by. So I'm going to have a on start long click and on end long right click. And then we're going to need to create a coroutine for like checking has it been double clicked. And we're going to need to it's going to be a little hard to wrap your mind around, so don't feel too bad if it's took me this gave me a headache at first, but like I don't even know how I figured this out. I just was trying a bunch of crap and having it work, yeah. So this is gonna be, it's not gonna be too bad though. So I'm gonna try to explain it as best I can. So let me just create some more events here. Oh, but first I want to create a parameter because, say, the user might want to change how long they right click before it turns into a long right click. And so it's good to kind of give that user that option and to create a variable for that rather than just arbitrarily say, okay, after 2 seconds, it's going to turn into a right long click. Since I'm going to probably have this for both the left and right click, I'm going to kind of put it up at the top and just use one variable for both left and right click, because I feel like it would be nice for the user to be able to differentiate between how long they want the right click to go before turning into a long right click, and same with for a long left click, but I feel like it's a little overkill to be able to tweak each one separately. So for simplicity's sake, I'm gonna put it up here and make it shared by both of these. So the name of this variable is going to be called long click threshold. And it's actually better not to make things public. Create functions to get and set this parameter. But I do want to be able to change it in the inspector, and so I'm going to put the tag serialized field. So this isn't public, it's not going to show up unless you put this above it. So then it will show in the inspector. And we'll even create a tooltip. And I think a good default value would be about 0.3. And just to kind of show you in the inspector, I saved it before I put the default value. But yeah, so now we can change this in the inspector, and if we hover over, it's going to show us that tooltip. Now, if we want, we could even make this a slider too. I'm going to go off on this little teeny tiny tangent since I have the opportunity. So you type range. And I believe let's make it between 0.05 and I think 3 seconds would be way longer than that would be good. So let's cap them off there and then go back here. And now it's turned into a slider, so we can just kind of do this. And we can still probably put something, well, no we can't. But you know, if we need this to be longer, we can come back later and change it here. But it's probably going to be a lot easier for people to tweak it like this. You know, it's always nice to kind of, you know, I find it fun to kind of make a cool editor for myself later and give myself lots of options and also document what the heck this thing does. So there you have it. Let's get back on to making the events. So I'm going to start with public happening on right long click start equals new happening. Gonna copy this and on right long click end. And then I'm going to choose to make a Boolean conditional, and it's going to be right long clicking is right long clicking. And set it to false at first. And you know what? I think I would prefer this to be as event-based as possible. So I'm going to change something from what I initially did and have it be on right long clicking. So just exactly kind of symmetrical to this one above there. And then now we're going to need to create some events for double clicking. And it's always good to try to find some way, it doesn't have to be perfect, to organize it. So I'm going to just break things up like that. And also, just like we had for the long click threshold here, I want to create a, I'm just going to copy and paste a lot of this since we're going to want to take advantage of some of this format. But I'm going to create a double click threshold and change the tooltip. So essentially, I'm going to create another coroutine that is going to wait for the release of the right click, and it's going to exist for the amount of time as the double click threshold. So yeah, if it's under 0.3 seconds, that's probably pretty good. It will then, and if it detects a subsequent right click, it'll fire these events. Now, this could get a little tricky if we have the monitor right click hold. It's going to end in, like here, it's going to start, once it's released, it will start the monitor for double click. And once that happens, it'll start that one. But what happens if when we do that double click again, right here, when we right click again, we have a coroutine that's listening for another right click, but this is also listening for a right click, so it then starts another monitor right click threshold, which then starts another double click thing, and then you could probably easily just have it continuously double clicking or screwing up. So we need to check before we start a new monitor right click hold to make sure that it's not the coroutine that's monitoring for a double click. And just pause and it's okay if this is a lot to think about. It'll make sense. Just kind of hold up your hand and say "I believe" as you go, if you can. But we need to check to make sure that we don't have a monitor for double click coroutine before we start this whole process up again. So I'm going to create a public, or just a global variable coroutine, and call it monitor right double click CR. I'm going to set it to null. I'm going to go down here and create another coroutine. I'm going to call it monitor for right double click. I'm going to create an elapsed time, a while loop, yield return null. The elapsed time is going to be incremented, and we're going to have our condition be while the elapsed time is less than or equal to the double click threshold. And within that loop, let's create another while loop. We talk about inception here. And that's detecting for that button to go down. So most of the time, if it's not going to be double click, it's going to go through here until it reaches the double click threshold. And but if you click again, then this will become true, and this will execute. This loop will run. And then once that's released, the elapsed time should have, you know what? Let's keep counting that elapsed time. Because it's going to be stuck in here and not increasing that elapsed time up there. So we need to make sure that the elapsed time is still being monitored, because while it's in this, it's going to kind of like go through this loop, stop here, and then it could be going back and forth between here before it comes out and goes back here, and the elapsed time will not be counting while it's in here. So, yeah. And I'm gonna go and I'm gonna tweak some stuff here. So if elapsed time is greater than or equal to the long click threshold, or you know what, while it is less than that, we're going to say we're just right clicking, but if elapsed time, you know what, you kind of realize some things as you go coding. So let's make our let's go to a second while loop. So for this is going to be the normal right clicking, and we're going to add another conditional here. So it has to be yeah, so we can kind of organize it like this. So while we're right clicking and the elapsed time is less than the long click threshold time, we're going to say debug.log right clicking. And then once one of these, either the mouse is released or we go longer than that threshold time, it's going to go out of this loop. And so now it's going to be if we're not if we're not right clicking, then we're going to say debug.log right click up, and then at the start I'm going to say debug.log right click down. Now if the mouse button has been released, I want it to stop the coroutine, but first I want it to do, we're going to go find the name of our, what was it, monitor, good grief, monitor right click double click, monitor right double click coroutine, and we're going to set that equal to start coroutine, monitor, I'll just copy paste it in there. And then we're going to yield a break from this whole coroutine. However, and that this needs to be not, if it's not down, sorry, right click was released. That's what this is. So we need to stop the coroutine, start this other coroutine. And this is going to let us keep track of, hey, is there currently one of these coroutines running? I'm going to go else if elapsed time is greater than or equal to long click threshold. Well, then this is going to be long click has started. So debug.log right long click down or started. What would we call it? Okay, yeah, we're just going with the. Oh, okay. Right long click start. Okay. Perfect. And then we're going to go create another while loop. It's going to check for just this. Oh, whoa. All right, yeah. Are we still right clicking? And every time that is occurring, we're going to. So now we're kind of continuously long clicking. We're holding that down. We're going to do debug.log right long clicking. Okay, now when this becomes when this is done at the end here. Oh, we also need to make sure that we're coming back every frame this is happening. So yield return null, and then now the right long click has been released because this is no longer true. And we can debug.log right long click ended. Yeah. Now, I'm choosing not to have it check for a double click with a on a long click. I don't know if you. I don't know. It seems like it'd be pretty trippy to have some control scheme where you have to long click first and drag around or do whatever, and then double click again. So I'm not going to start that listen for long click coroutine. And also, it's very important that I believe it's important, mostly because I'm paranoid. So I like to put, what is the name of this ridiculous thing? Monitor long double click CR. Let's set that equal to null once it's gone through here. And this might seem a little confusing and out of order, but I am going to do a conditional here, and that's going to be if monitor right double click does not equal if it equals null. So we currently aren't waiting for a long click here, then it will start the monitor for like a normal right click or a normal and a long. Jeez. Yeah. Kind of adding lots of confusion and layers to it, but I think it will create a more intuitive. It's kind of a funny roundabout way to create some of our own kind of distinctions here in Unity. But look, I think Sins is kind of unique in some of this regard, so we have to find creative solutions here. So just to kind of logically go through it, every update, it's going to check, all right, was the right click button just pushed? And are we not already waiting for a right double click, or for a double click? Okay, all right, we're good. We're fresh. We're not gonna double click here. We're just gonna start monitoring how long we're holding this right click. So it will start this. We will fire that event, which for now I'm just gonna put as a log statement. And then, so at the very beginning, it starts that. Then it immediately goes into the right clicking. And then once either the elapsed time has completed or the mouse button is released, it will leave this loop. We will go here. All right, now if the button was released, well then the right click up event will now fire, and we can now monitor to see if there's going to be a double click and stop this coroutine. Now let's now go to here, and there's a couple more things we need to do. So we need to create fire the debug.log. The right double click is now down, and then yes, or no. I almost made a little mistake here. Now, why would I not fire the right double click event down? And the answer is because no, they haven't double clicked yet. Part of this coroutine is kind of waiting that threshold time to see if they're gonna have a click. So we don't want to put that there, kind of like we did with the last coroutine. We want this to only happen once, because we're only gonna start at least every time we have a right click. In a right click, there's only one start to the right click. So just to make things even more convoluted, we're going to check for this again, and we could even put this in here and say, okay, now debug on double click down, on right double click down, right double click down, and then we're going to fire the debug.log on right double clicking. And now we could probably put it here or right here. Yeah, perfect. Let's you know what? We would not put it here, because what if there was no double click? What if we never detected one? Well, then we're not going to fire the on right double click up. So we're going to wait for this loop that's now detecting the double click that has occurred. And once it's gone through this loop, then we can fire the debug.log on right double click up. All right, let's test this and pray that it worked. Alrighty, so we got the game going. I'm going to right click now. So we're right clicking. And then after a while, you know what? We've already found our first mistake. So it should, after that amount of time, ideally switch over to a long right click. So, whoa, this is fun. What is this? Anyway, we need to go up here, and in order for this to break, ooh, no, this is not working. I think I may have had it right the first time, because yeah, these both. Now, oh, wait a second. No. I'm backtrack again. I think we're fine. False alarm. We need to plus equals time dot delta time here for monitor right click hold. Otherwise, it's never going to. This is never going to end. Or at least while this is down, it's never going to end. So we need to check for that elapsed time. It's getting bigger. Let's try it again. Okay, right clicking. Okay, right long click started. Right long clicking. And I'm gonna release. Right long click ended. So now I'm just going to try and click real fast. Okay, so we had a right click down. We were right clicking. I guess there's a distinct between the first and last and then the middle 40 of them, but whatever. And then we right clicked up. And then let's double click. Down, down. Okay. That didn't work. So let's let me figure that out. So I think it was just because I wasn't fast enough. So there we go. On right double click down, on right double clicking, happened 7 times, and on right double click up. So we now may want to actually go in here, and where is it? Input manager, and oh, interesting. We don't have a serialized field on this, so that's why it's not showing in the editor. We need the serialized field for the double click threshold. Whoa. And now it's there. Okay, let's make this this long click at 0.4. So now it should take about 0.4 seconds before it becomes the right long click, and then release. It's ended, and there's no double click. But now let me go. Yeah, there we go. Let me try to do a longer double click. So yeah, on right double clicking, and for some reason there's some sort of weird camera controller that I didn't put there that it's letting me look like this. Interesting. And then release on right double click up. So now the remaining things to do are to now go replace these things, maybe comment out these debug.logs, never know when they could come in handy, and replace them with these events here. And then, of course, we probably want to have a variation of that for the left click. So in between the scenes, that's what I'm going to do. So again, just firing these events and commenting out. I'm just going to turn these comments back on so we can test it. The double click was still looking at the right click, so I have to change that to 0. Okay, now it's registering like I wanted it to. Okay, still holding it down, double clicking, and releasing. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. This was a little bit complicated. I apologize, but I think it's really important that we set up really nuanced. Have some like it's good if we have some nuanced controls here. And if you don't understand this, that's okay. It would be good to try to understand coroutines a little bit because they're seriously, I find them to be one of the most useful things. But the way I have this set up, hopefully, is so that you can just use these events. So you don't really have to figure out how these events were necessarily differentiated, discriminated for, detected. That's the word I'm looking for. You can just attach functions to, all right, on double click up, on left double click up. So that's really all you have to worry about. But these concepts, this methodology could come in handy for a lot of places, knowing how we're going to be using a lot of coroutines, especially when it comes to building stuff, having the ship move to the correct location, and yeah, the coroutines are pretty handy. Well, thank you for indulging me in this video, and I hope you look forward to the next one. Take care.